The Grand Council chamber buzzed with whispers as the Earth representative walked slowly to the center of the room. Light from 3 suns streamed through massive windows, illuminating the circular chamber where leaders from 17 different alien species sat in rising tiers. The Earth representative, a woman named Jin, stood alone on the speaking platform, her simple blue uniform looking plain next to the elaborate robes and bioluminescent attire of the gathered council members. The motion to deny human integration into the Galactic Confederation has been proposed, announced the council elder, a tall being with silver skin who had lived for over 500 years. The representative from Earth may speak before the final vote. Jin cleared her throat, her voice steady despite the hostile stares directed at her. Members of the Confederation, I stand before you today asking only for a chance. Humanity has overcome wars, environmental challenges, and countless setbacks. We have united our planet and reached for the stars. We may be younger than your civilizations, but we have much to offer. Our art, our unique perspective, our determination. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Tay of the Meribian Federation, whose 6 eyes blinked in amused synchronization, leaned forward in his hovering seat. We have studied your species for 50 years, Tay said, his translator conveying his mocking tone perfectly. You humans fight over resources that could be shared. You form emotional attachments that cloud logical thinking. Your history is written in blood, and your entertainment glorifies violence. He gestured with a 3-fingered hand. Just last century, you nearly destroyed yourselves 3 times. Why would we welcome such chaos into our ordered society? Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Jin tried to respond, but Tay continued. Humans are unpredictable. They make decisions based on feelings rather than facts. Their creativity is admirable, yes, but it comes paired with dangerous impulsivity. Tay turned to address the other council members rather than Jin. The Confederation has maintained peace for 2,000 years through careful planning and rational governance. Humans represent uncertainty, a variable we cannot control. The representative from the Solian Collective, a being made of swirling gas contained in a transparent suit, spoke next. Their technology is barely past planetary. They achieved space travel only a century ago. They are children playing with tools they barely understand. Jin stepped forward. But we learn quickly. We adapt. That is precisely what concerns us, interrupted Counselor Bay of the Quantum Consciousness. Your adaptability means unpredictability. Your species changes too rapidly. You cannot be trusted to follow established patterns. The vote was called. Through the transparent voting terminals, Jin could see the decisions being registered. Against human inclusion. Against. Only 2 species voted in favor of giving humanity a chance. The Council has decided, announced the Elder. Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Confederation is denied. Furthermore, a ban on human expansion beyond your solar system will be enforced for your own protection and ours. Ambassador Tay rose from his seat, towering over the other representatives. Let the record show that humans are considered a level 3 protected species, intelligent but not yet ready for galactic citizenship. Perhaps in another few centuries when you have proven yourselves capable of true stability. Jin stood straight, dignity intact despite the humiliation. We will continue to reach for the stars, with or without your blessing. And that, said Tay with a flick of his hand, dismissing her as one might a child, is exactly why the ban is necessary. The chamber doors slid open, a clear sign that the Earth representative was no longer welcome in the Council's presence. Humanity's first contact with the galactic community ended not with celebration, but with rejection. The soft hum of monitoring equipment filled Sun's small observation pod perched on the dark side of Luna. Earth hung in the blackness of space, a blue and white marble that seemed both fragile and remarkable. Sun adjusted her viewing scope, focusing on a small coastal city where lights twinkled as night fell across that region of the planet. Log entry 47, she spoke into her recorder. Earth date March 15th. Human resilience continues to surprise me. The coastal community I've been monitoring experienced a significant storm surge yesterday. Instead of abandoning their settlement as would be logical, They immediately began rebuilding. Neighbors help neighbors without governmental direction. Their social bonds appear to function as an emergency response system. 6 months had passed since Sun received her assignment from the Araxian Science Academy. When the Galactic Confederation banned human contact, most researchers abandoned their Earth studies. But Director Kyo had called Sun to his private chambers. "Your application for continued Earth observation has been approved," he had told her, his voice barely above a whisper despite the security field around them. "Officially, you're being sent to research gas formations in the Cygnus sector. Unofficially, we need to understand these humans better than the Council does." Sun had been shocked. "But the ban is political," Kyo had interrupted. "Science should not bow to politics. Just don't get caught." Now, alone in her hidden station disguised as a natural formation on Luna's cratered surface, Sun understood why Director Kyo had selected her. While her colleagues saw humans as dangerous primitives, she saw something extraordinary. Sun switched her monitors to a different region, where daylight revealed a construction project. Humans were building a massive seawall, working together to protect their city from rising waters. They could simply move inland, she murmured to herself. Yet they adapt their environment instead of adapting themselves. Fascinating. She recorded detailed notes about their construction techniques, socially coordinated labor, and problem-solving approaches. The Confederation believed humans were too emotional and unpredictable to join galactic society, but Sun was beginning to wonder if emotion might actually drive innovation in ways pure logic could not. A proximity alarm chimed softly. Sun quickly checked her cloaking systems, still functioning perfectly. A human satellite was passing nearby. These close calls happened more frequently now as Earth expanded its orbital presence. Following non-interference protocols became more challenging with each passing month. "They're advancing faster than predicted," Sun noted in her log. "Lunar mining operations will likely begin within 5 years, not 20 as the Council estimated." She switched to her collection of human broadcasts: music, news, entertainment. Against regulations, she had learned their primary languages. The Council dismissed human art as primitive, but Sun found herself moved by their music, their stories. Last week, she had caught herself humming a human melody while reviewing data. That night, as Earth rotated beneath her viewpoint, Sun watched. A public gathering in a large city square. Humans were celebrating something. Dancing, embracing, sharing food. Their capacity for joy seemed as boundless as their determination. "I don't understand how the Council can't see it," she whispered to the empty observation room. "These beings aren't just violent and unpredictable. They're also kind, creative, and incredibly determined." She knew the risks of her unauthorized sympathies. If the Council discovered her growing admiration for humans, she would lose her position, possibly face exile. But as she watched a human child on her monitor reach up to release a colorful paper lantern into the night sky, Sun knew she could never view them as merely research subjects again. The non-interference protocols felt heavier each day. Sometimes she wondered how long she could watch humanity struggle without reaching out to help. The emergency alarms wailed through the Confederation Command Center as Admiral Day stared at the holographic display with growing horror. 3 more planets had gone dark in the past hour. Whatever this spatial anomaly was, it moved faster than anyone could track. "Report!" Day demanded, her 4-fingered hand gripping the edge of the command table. Officer Pack looked up from his monitoring station, his face pale under the flashing red emergency lights. "The anomaly has reached the Cygnus defense outpost. All systems are failing: communications, weapons arrays, planetary shields. Everything just stops working." On the main screen, swirling purple-black energy patterns expanded across star. Systems like ink dropped in water. Scientists had no explanation for the phenomenon. It wasn't a weapon, at least not one made by any known civilization, but it might as well have been. "The Viridians are moving in behind it," reported Commander Jin, pointing to a fleet of sharp-angled warships appearing at the edge of the affected zone. "They're hitting every system right after the anomaly passes through." The Viridians. For centuries they had lurked at the edges of Confederation space, a nomadic warrior culture that occasionally raided border worlds. Now they were launching a full-scale invasion perfectly timed with this mysterious anomaly. They must have known this was coming, whispered Day. They were prepared. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Confederation had enjoyed millennia of peace, protected by superior technology and sophisticated defensive systems. Those same systems were now useless against both the anomaly and the Viridian attackers. "Evacuation reports from Helios Prime," called out a communications officer. "Civilian casualties estimated at 30,000 and rising." Day closed her eyes briefly. Helios Prime was home to over 20 million beings. In the adjoining science, Lab Chief Researcher Lee slammed his fist against a console in frustration. "This defies everything we know about spatial physics. The anomaly shouldn't exist." His assistant, a younger scientist named Juan, looked up from analyzing data streams. "Our sensors detect no energy signature, no radiation, no particles, nothing. We can measure or counter. It's operating on principles we don't understand." On the refugee ship fleeing from Proxima Colony, Governor Min watched her homeworld through a viewport as Viridian warships descended through the atmosphere. The colony's defense grid had shut down an hour earlier, when the strange purple haze had passed through the system. "We built those defenses to last for generations," she said to no one in particular. "The finest minds in the Confederation designed them, and they just failed." Back at Confederation headquarters, the Council had assembled for an emergency session. The chamber that had once hosted the smug dismissal of humanity now filled with the panicked voices of representatives watching their worlds fall. "We need to deploy the Grand Fleet," insisted Councilor Yua. Admiral Day shook her head. "The fleet uses the same defensive technology as the planetary systems. They'll be just as vulnerable. We've already lost 2 battlecruisers that way." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded Ambassador Tay, the same official who had mockingly dismissed Earth's representative months earlier. His voice no longer carried any trace of superiority. "I don't know," admitted Day. "Our entire defense doctrine is based on technology. That no longer functions. We've specialized so completely in one approach that we have no alternative strategies." As night fell across the capital, citizens gathered in public spaces, watching news feeds with growing dread. The Confederation had known peace for so long that most couldn't comprehend what was happening. The perfect ordered society was crumbling before an enemy they couldn't understand, and attackers they had dismissed as primitive. No one spoke the terrible truth aloud. The most advanced civilization in the galaxy had no idea how to save itself. Sun sat in her observation pod on Luna, eyes wide with disbelief as she reviewed the intercepted transmission from Earth's International Space Agency. For the past 12 hours, she had been scanning human communications more intensely than ever before, desperate to find any information that might help the Confederation against the spreading anomaly. "This can't be right," she whispered, replaying the video conference between scientists in different Earth research stations. They were discussing something they called dark energy pockets, localized disturbances in space-time that appeared randomly in the outer solar system. Sun leaned closer to her screen, adjusting the translation matrix to ensure she understood correctly. A woman with glasses was explaining their findings to colleagues. The Jupiter Observatory confirmed another pocket formed last week, same energy signature as the others. We've been tracking these phenomena for almost 20 years now. 20 years? Sun felt a chill run through her body. The Confederation had only detected the anomaly 3 weeks ago, and it had thrown their entire civilization into chaos. Yet humans had been studying similar phenomena for decades. She quickly accessed Earth's scientific databases, using the backdoor algorithm she had developed months ago. Keywords: dark energy, spatial anomaly, physics disruption. The search returned thousands of research papers. "How did we miss this?" Sun muttered, downloading everything she could find. As dawn broke over Earth's Pacific Ocean, Sun remained awake, absorbing paper after paper. Human scientists approached physics differently than Confederation researchers. Where Confederation science relied on elegant mathematical perfection and established theories, humans seemed comfortable with messier, more intuitive approaches. Research team in a place called Chile had documented how these energy pockets temporarily disrupted electrical systems. Another group had observed similar effects near Saturn's rings. But most importantly, a physicist named Jin had proposed a theoretical method to disperse the anomalies using something called resonance wave technology. Sun pulled up video of an experimental test. The footage showed a small purple distortion hovering in a laboratory chamber. Scientists aimed a device at it, generating waves that made the distortion flicker and eventually dissipate. It worked. Sun breathed. It actually worked. The solution was far from perfect. The test had been conducted on a tiny anomaly in controlled conditions. Scaling it up to address the massive disturbances threatening Confederation worlds would require enormous engineering challenges. But it was a starting point, more than the Confederation's finest minds had managed to develop. Sun paced her small station, mind racing. The non-interference protocols strictly forbade sharing alien technology with humans. But these weren't alien technologies. These were human discoveries the Confederation had overlooked entirely. She stopped suddenly, staring at Earth through her viewport. The Council had dismissed humans as primitive, violent, and unpredictable. They had banned them from galactic society, confident that humanity had nothing valuable to offer. Yet here was evidence that humans' very unpredictability, their willingness to pursue unconventional theories, to think outside established frameworks, had led them to solutions the advanced Confederation couldn't imagine. Sun made her decision. She began compiling all the relevant human research into a secure data package. Protocol or not, the Confederation needed this information. Billions of lives were at stake across dozens of worlds. As she worked, she paused on a quote from a human researcher. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from asking questions everyone else thinks are too simple or too strange to consider. Perhaps, Sun thought, the Council had been wrong about humans in more ways than one. Counselor J's private chambers were sealed with the highest security protocols as Sun transmitted her findings. The older diplomat watched the human research footage with growing amazement, his normally calm face showing rare emotion. "They've been studying these anomalies for decades?" he asked, pausing a video of Earth scientists testing their resonance technology. "While our physicists claimed such things were impossible?" Sun nodded, keeping her voice low despite the security field surrounding them. "Humans approach problems differently. They don't require elegant mathematical proofs before testing a theory. They experiment. They guess. They try things our scientists would dismiss without consideration." Jay rubbed his temple, a gesture he had picked up from studying human behavior. The Council would never accept this. Even with worlds falling to the Viridians, even facing extinction, they would reject human help. "Which is why I came to you first," Sun said. "You're the only Council member who voted against the ban." Outside the window, the capital city glittered under 3 moons. Somewhere beyond those stars, the anomaly continued to spread, with Viridian warships following in its wake. 4 more worlds had fallen yesterday. Time was running out. "What exactly are you proposing?" Jay asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. Sun took a deep breath. "I've identified key human researchers working on this technology. If we bring them here secretly—" "Do you understand what you're suggesting?" Jay interrupted. "Violating the ban is punishable by permanent exile. If we're discovered, we'll lose everything." "If we do nothing, there will be nothing left to lose," Sun countered. "The Confederation is falling, Counselor. Our perfect society, our advanced technology. None of it matters if we can't stop this anomaly." Silence filled the room as Jay considered her words. Finally, he activated his private terminal. "We'll need a secure facility off-network, and a way to bring humans here without detection." Sun felt relief flood through her. "I have access to a transport ship through my research grant. Small, but adequate." "How will you convince these humans to help?" "Their world rejected them from our community." Sun smiled slightly. "You don't know humans very well. They help even those who don't deserve it." It's both their weakness and their strength. 3 days later, under cover of darkness, Sun landed her small research vessel in a remote forest in a region humans called Finland. The scientist she sought lived alone in a cabin by a frozen lake, continuing his research after being dismissed from his university for pursuing fringe theories. The human, a bearded man named Gil, listened without interruption as Sun explained the situation. She had expected fear, anger, or shock at meeting an alien. Instead, he simply nodded and asked precise questions about the anomaly's behavior. "So your people banned humans from space and now you need our help?" he summarized when she finished. "And you're breaking your laws to ask for it?" "Yes," Sun admitted. Gil looked out his window at the snow-covered landscape. "How many have died?" "Millions, with billions more at risk." The human was quiet for a moment. Then he stood, pulling a worn backpack from a hook by the door. "I'll need my research, and we should contact Dr. Kai in Tokyo and Dr. Lee in Seoul. They've done complementary work." "Your leaders might notice your absence," Sun warned. Gil laughed, a sound without humor. "The world stopped listening to us years ago, called us crackpots for studying impossible phenomena. No one will miss us." As Sun's ship left Earth's atmosphere with 3 human scientists aboard, Counselor Jay was converting an abandoned research facility on Confederation's third moon into a secret laboratory. Neither of them spoke about the consequences they would face if discovered. Some gambles were worth any price. The abandoned research facility on the third moon had been transformed into a bustling workspace within days. Dr. Mee stood at the central holographic display, her hands moving through floating data points as she explained her theory to a group of skeptical Confederation scientists. "The anomaly isn't destroying your technology," she said, pulling apart the purple swirling image. "It's changing the fundamental constants that your technology depends on. That's why your systems fail. They're designed with such precision that they can't adapt when the rules change." Commander Han, a stocky man with scars from Earth conflicts, nodded as he studied the Viridian battle formations. "Your ships are built for perfect conditions. Ours are built expecting things to go wrong." The Confederation scientists exchanged uncomfortable glances. Their society had perfected technology over thousands of years, creating systems that operated with flawless precision. The idea that this perfection might be a weakness seemed impossible to accept. "Watch this," Dr. Mee said, activating a small device on the table. A miniature version of the anomaly formed above it, pulsing with the same purple energy that was devastating worlds. "We're going to hit it with an oscillating field that constantly changes frequency." "But the calculations would never converge," protested a Confederation physicist. "You can't predict which frequency will—" "We're not trying to predict it," interrupted Dr. Mee. "We're trying every possibility until something works." She activated the device. The field hit the mini anomaly, which flickered but remained. "Doctor," Mai adjusted a dial, changing the frequency. "Nothing." She turned it again. Still nothing. "This is exactly why this approach is flawed," the Confederation scientist began, but fell silent as the anomaly suddenly destabilized on the 23rd attempt. "Brute force," Dr. Mee said with a small smile. "Not elegant, but effective." Another section of the facility, Commander Han worked with 3 other humans to modify Confederation weapons. The elegant energy projectors were being fitted with crude-looking attachments. "Your weapons are designed for precision strikes against specific targets," Han explained to Counselor Jay, who watched with fascination. "But the Viridians use swarm tactics with thousands of small ships. You need area effects, not precision." "Like throwing a net instead of a spear," Jay said, beginning to understand. Han nodded. "Exactly." The humans worked in shifts, sleeping only a few hours before returning to their tasks. They argued loudly, tried failed approaches, scrapped entire projects to start over, and celebrated small victories with an emotional intensity that bewildered the Confederation observers. Late one night, Counselor Jay found Sun watching the humans work through a viewport. "They're so different from us," Sun said quietly. We seek perfection before action. They act, fail, adjust, and try again. It's chaotic, but effective, Jay finished. 3 weeks ago, our best minds said this crisis had no solution. Today, we have working prototypes for both the anomaly and the Viridian threat. A cheer erupted from the lab as another test succeeded. The humans embraced each other, exhausted but triumphant. I've been watching them closely, Sun said. Do you know what drives them? It's not just solving the puzzle. They keep talking about the civilians on threatened worlds, people they've never met from species that rejected them. Jay was silent for a moment. Perhaps we judged them too quickly. They're building these devices with scrap materials and parts from my research ship, Sun said with wonder. Imagine what they might accomplish with real resources. An alarm sounded from the communications array. Urgent messages from the front. Another Confederation world was under attack. It's time to test their solutions in the field, Jay said, his expression grave. Whether we're ready or not. The massive, holographic display in the Confederation Defense Center showed a grim reality. The Viridian attack fleet had broken through the outer defenses of Nova Prime, the Confederation's most populous, central world. Hundreds of sharp-angled warships descended through the atmosphere, while the mysterious purple anomaly spread across the planet's defense grid, shutting down systems one by one. Admiral Yun slammed his fist on the command table. Evacuation transports can't get through their blockade. We have 2 billion civilians down there with no defenses. Counselor Jay and Sun exchanged glances across the room. They had received word from their secret facility that the human team had completed their prototypes, but the Council had denied their request to deploy experimental technology in such a critical battle. We need to act now, Sun whispered urgently. The humans are ready. Jay hesitated only briefly before nodding. I'll take responsibility. 20 minutes later, a small unmarked transport ship broke atmosphere above Nova Prime. Inside, Dr. Mi checked the connections on her resonance amplifier one last time. The device, built from scavenged parts and theoretical science, looked crude next to the sleek Confederation technology. Remember, we need to hit the center of the anomaly, she reminded the small team of humans. The field will only hold for 8 minutes before the power cells burn out. Beside her, Commander Han briefed his team on the modified weapons they would use against the Viridian ships. They're expecting Confederation tactics, precise by-the-book approaches. We'll do the opposite. Unpredictable patterns, concentrated fire on unexpected targets. The ship rocked as Viridian fire grazed their shields. Through the viewport, the battle looked hopeless. Confederation ships moved in perfect formation, firing with precise timing, and getting destroyed by the more numerous, chaotic Viridian forces. They're using the same tactics they've used for centuries, Han observed. No wonder they're losing. Their ship landed near the central defense facility, where the largest concentration of the purple anomaly swirled. Local defense forces stared, in shock as humans exited the vessel. Who authorized this? Demanded a Confederation commander. Humans are forbidden in Confederation space. I did, said Counselor Jay, stepping forward. And I'll face the consequences later. Right now, we need to save this world. Dr. Mi and her team rushed to position the resonance amplifier, while Han led his group toward the perimeter where Viridian ground forces had broken through. This goes against all established defense protocols, protested the local commander as Dr. Mi activated her device. Good, she replied with a grim smile. The enemy knows your protocols too. The resonance amplifier powered up, emitting waves that rippled through the purple anomaly. Nothing happened at first. Then the energy field began to flicker. Dr. Mi adjusted frequencies rapidly, trying combination after combination as sweat beaded on her forehead. Meanwhile, Han's team engaged the Viridian forces using modified weapons that fired in unpredictable patterns. Rather than taking perfect positions as Confederation soldiers did, the humans constantly moved using whatever cover they could find. Focus fire on their command unit, Han shouted, pointing to a vessel the Confederation forces had ignored because it was heavily protected. Everything at once, The concentrated barrage overwhelmed the Viridian defenses, destroying their local command structure. Confusion spread through their ranks as they lost coordination. Back at the defense facility, Dr. Mee's device finally found the right frequency. The purple anomaly began collapsing, shrinking inward until it vanished with a thunderous implosion. Instantly, Confederation defense systems began reactivating across the city. "It worked," Sun exclaimed, watching from their command position. "The anomaly is dissipating." Confederation ships, with their systems restored, quickly began gaining advantage. But the battle wasn't won by technology alone. It was the human tactics, the unpredictable approaches and willingness to take risks that had created the opening they needed. As the Viridian forces began retreating, a badly wounded Commander Han looked up at the clearing skies. "Tell the Council," he said through gritted teeth, "that humanity sends its regards." The Grand Council chamber had lost all its former dignity. The elegant room where 17 species had once calmly discussed galactic matters now buzzed with panic and fear. Council members shouted over each other as holographic displays showed more worlds falling to the Viridian forces. The crisis that had begun weeks ago had only worsened, with nearly a third of Confederation territories now under attack or already conquered. "Proxima Colony has fallen," announced a harried aide, rushing into the chamber with yet another update. "Refugee ships report total destruction of the capital city." "We must consider surrender terms," said Councillor Beck, his voice trembling. The suggestion would have been unthinkable just days ago. "The Viridians don't accept surrender," reminded Ambassador Lee. "They only accept complete submission or annihilation." Amidst the chaos, only Councillor J remained calm. He had returned from Nova Prime hours earlier, carrying data crystals containing footage that might change everything. He had waited, listening to the reports of disaster, understanding that the Council needed to grasp the full extent of their failure before they could accept an uncomfortable truth. "If I may address the Council," Jay said, rising from his seat. When the others continued arguing, he raised his voice, something unprecedented in Council protocol. "I said, if I may address the Council." The room fell quiet, all eyes turning to the normally soft-spoken diplomat. Yesterday, Nova Prime was under attack. Today, it stands secure. The anomaly was dispelled. The Viridian forces were repelled. He paused, letting the impossible news sink in. "I have footage." Jay inserted a data crystal into the central display. The massive screen that dominated the chamber wall flickered to life, showing scenes from the Battle of Nova Prime. Council members leaned forward, expressions shifting from skepticism to astonishment. The footage showed Dr. Mee working frantically to adjust her makeshift device as the purple anomaly swirled overhead. When her first attempts failed, she didn't give up as Confederation scientists might have done. Instead, she kept trying different approaches, calling out adjustments to her team who worked with determined expressions despite the obvious danger surrounding them. "Is that a human?" whispered Ambassador Tay, the same official who had mockingly dismissed Earth's representative months earlier. The footage shifted to Commander Han and his team. Unlike Confederation soldiers who maintained perfect formations even in retreat, the humans used unpredictable movements and improvised weapons. When a building collapsed, trapping Confederation civilians, the humans rushed in without hesitation, risking their lives for aliens who had rejected their species. "They're saving our people," murmured Councillor Nari, her voice barely audible. The most striking footage came from a security camera near the central plaza. A young human scientist named Gil had modified a public broadcasting tower into a shield generator using parts from his own equipment. When Viridian forces targeted a school where children had taken shelter, Gil positioned himself between the attackers and the building, holding the makeshift shield until evacuation was complete. The footage showed him taking a severe injury, but refusing to leave until the last child was safe. No one spoke as the images played on. The Council watched as humans, supposedly primitive, violent, and unpredictable, demonstrated courage, innovation, and selflessness beyond anything they had expected. The final footage showed Dr. Mee's moment of triumph as her resonance device finally collapsed the anomaly. The joy on her face wasn't just scientific satisfaction, it was genuine relief that lives would be saved. Her team embraced each other with an emotional openness that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. When the display finally went dark, the silence in the chamber was absolute. No one seemed to know what to say. The species they had banned from galactic society, the beings they had dismissed as unworthy, had just saved one of their most important worlds using methods their own scientists had declared impossible. How? Asked Elder Quan finally, his ancient voice cracking with emotion. How did they do this when our finest minds failed? Jay looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. Perhaps, he said quietly, it is time we reconsider our understanding of what makes a civilization advanced. The silence in the council chamber stretched for what felt like hours. None of the 17 representatives spoke as they processed what they had witnessed. The footage of humans risking their lives to save Confederation citizens, succeeding where advanced technology had failed, challenged everything they thought they knew about what made a civilization worthy of respect. Ambassador. Tay sat motionless, staring at his hands. Just months ago, in this very chamber, he had mockingly dismissed Earth's representative. He had called humans primitive, unstable, and dangerous. Now, those same primitive beings had saved countless lives on Nova Prime, including his own family who resided in the capital city. Elder Quan finally broke the silence. We have existed for thousands of years, the ancient being said, voice barely above a whisper. We created perfect societies, perfect technologies, perfect systems. He looked up, eyes reflecting the light of 3 suns. And when those perfect systems failed, we had no answers. While humans, continued Counselor Nari, whose civilization is barely a fraction of our age, found solutions in days that our greatest minds couldn't discover in weeks. Around the room, representatives nodded slowly, still processing the implications. The species they had considered most worthy of joining their community were those most like themselves. Logical, orderly, predictable. Humans had been rejected, precisely because they were none of these things. Ambassador Tay rose from his seat, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the chamber floor. All eyes turned to him, watching as the once proud diplomat struggled to find words. I was wrong, he said finally, the admission clearly difficult for him. We were all wrong. He straightened his formal robes, a gesture that seemed to give him strength. I move that we immediately reconsider the ban on human integration into the Galactic Confederation. Murmurs filled the chamber as representatives consulted with their aides. This wasn't a minor policy adjustment. This was a fundamental shift in how the Confederation viewed itself and its place in the galaxy. Their methods are unorthodox, said Ambassador Lee, who had previously voted against human inclusion. Their solutions lack elegance. Their emotions influence their decisions. She paused. And yet, they succeeded where we failed. Counselor Jay, who had risked everything to bring humans into the fight, spoke next. Perhaps what we have long viewed as weaknesses, their emotionality, their unpredictability, their stubborn refusal to accept defeat, are actually their greatest strengths. They didn't help us because they expected reward, added Sun, who had been invited to address the council. They helped because they could, because saving lives mattered more to them than ancient prejudices or political calculations. The formal vote was called. One by one, representatives cast their decisions. Where months ago the chamber had nearly unanimously rejected humanity, now they unanimously welcomed them. Let it be recorded, said Elder Quan, that on this day the Galactic Confederation acknowledges its error in judgment regarding the human species. We extend not just membership, but our profound gratitude and respect. As representatives began discussing practical matters, how to officially contact Earth, how to integrate humans into Confederation defense forces, how to apologize for their previous rejection, Ambassador Tay stood apart, looking out at the stars visible through the chamber's massive windows. We thought ourselves so advanced, he said quietly to Counselor J, who had joined him. Yet we nearly perished because we couldn't imagine solutions outside our perfect systems. And our salvation, J replied, came from the very species we once mocked as unworthy. Somewhere out there, the Viridian threat remained. But for the first time in weeks, the Confederation faced the future with something they had almost forgotten: hope.